Welcome and a big thank you for coming out to learn more about 706 Ocean Avenue. My dad liked to call it the Anchorage. I'm Elaine, Mary, Henkey, Marshall, the last of the original family to have lived here. My siblings, Wilford, Leonard, and Doreen, have all passed away. We moved to 706, I think, the spring of 1941, just prior to World War II. And my dad had owned a trucking company in Los Angeles, the Quick Service Transfer Company. And so he traveled from Seal Beach to Los Angeles every day. It was not a problem for him. And as a family, we went to the United Methodist Church here in Seal Beach. My dad was a lay leader with Reverend Essert. He had a powerful voice and he was very good at what he did. And he also showed slides of his round the world traveling. He liked to play chess, and he played mostly with a gentleman called Mr. McGaw, who was the principal of the Seal Beach Grammar School at the time, and the other good friend was Pete Ekberg. Then,
There you go.
he started the Sunday school orchestra at the church. There was maybe 7 young people, and he bought the instruments for those that didn't have an instrument of their own. He played the trumpet a little off key, but no one said a word because he did buy the instruments. He also started the Seal Beach Marching Band. There was about 40 of us, and he still played his off-tune trumpet, and I carried the bass drum, and we marched down Main Street here in Seal Beach, and also in the towns nearby. It was a lot of fun. My mother, Dorothy, Mary, Catherine, Alice, Robinson, Henkey. She enjoyed knitting, and she knitted a scarf for Mamie Eisenhower, and Mamie Eisenhower sent her a thank you note, which I have hanging in my room, front room, so I can enjoy it too. She loved to entertain, and she was nothing to have 20 to 25 people for Sunday lunch. Some didn't even bother to call, they just dropped by, and they were welcomed. She had 13 grandchildren, and they were the love of her life. And she also invited the soldiers at the end of the pier, which I thought was pretty neat.
Oh, that's
Oh dear. She sewed tea towels made from flour sacks during World War II and embroidered things on them, and they were sold at the church bazaar. She was also the first brownie leader in Seal Beach. There was 20 little girls that met at 706 for a while until the city bought her some space to have the meeting elsewhere. She played the piano, and as children we learned to sing all the patriotic songs of the day and the hymns as well. And I still tap my feet to all the music. Side notes are, my husband Jim and my mother and I were sitting in the sunroom at 706 when we saw this plane come by just above the waterline. It made a U-turn and headed back to Long Beach. It was Howard Hughes flying his one and only flight over the ocean. Isn't that so? That's a wonderful
In the Spruce
name.
Goose?
And the Spruce Goose. I couldn't think of the name. Yeah.
Wow.
Around 1950, or maybe a little before, one of the gambling ships. Long Beach had ships that were stationed offshore 3 miles, and one of those ships sunk. So money, of course, washed up on shore, which I thought was wonderful.
Yes.
Then the other thing I wanted to bring up was during World War II, we had a little dog called Sammy. And about twice a year, Sammy would jump the wall, run to the opposite end of Seal Beach and visit with a friend. And my mother would call Chief Howard and say, "Sammy's jumped the wall again." He said, "Don't worry, Mrs. Henkey, I'll take the squad car down and pick him up." And he always did. So I found later that there are still reliable sources that have said that the house at 706 is still called the Henkey House.
Oh.
So that is it for now.
So, what is your earliest memory of Seal Beach? You weren't in Seal Beach when you were born.
No,
what
we
is
were
your?
in Huntington Park,
Uh-huh.
and we traveled to Tent City, which is down near 13th or 14th Street. But then it was little log cabins with a canvas roof, and we met people there. Became my parents' lifelong friends.
Oh.
Then my dad built the house, the apartments at 1314, now 1315, Seal Way, and we lived there for several years until we moved.
How old were you when he built the duplex there at 1350?
I was in the 3rd grade probably, and Doreen was in kindergarten.
Oh.
Yeah.
Do you remember them building that property? Did you see the
Yeah.
construction of it?
Yeah, and my dad has it. I do have some pictures of it. Yeah, very good. He also built the house that's next door to that, and you wouldn't recognize it now because it's got a 2nd story on it, but he did invest in building houses.
Remember the choice he gave Grandma Henkey?
Oh yeah, he said, you can either live in Balboa or Seal Beach, and Mother chose Seal Beach. So that's how we got there. I don't know for sure where he was born and all. But in 1923, after Leonard was born, he decided to put a Y on there. And in those days, evidently nobody minded, they didn't care. So that's how he got the H-E-N-K-E-Y. And it stuck through the years. But he was an interesting man.
When you had Tent City, was that when the trolley car went by in Seal Beach?
No, that was probably when we lived at 1314 Seal Way and 706. So the trolley came along. If you walked across the bridge, it only cost you a nickel to go to Long Beach. But if you missed that, then you had to pay a dime, and that was really hard times.
Yeah.
How far did the trolley go?
Into Long Beach, right? All I can think of right now is by the State Theater, so it was right down in the middle of Long Beach. During the war, I worked as not a nurse, but I worked at the Long Beach Hospital, so I walked to work, which is probably 6 miles. Did my duty there and walked back. And I had always thought I would be a nurse, but somehow I ended up being a school teacher, and I liked it a lot.
So was it like a candy striper kind of position where you'd go and help out, or?
I got to be in the surgical. Yeah, I still remember seeing a man had broken his jaw, and I could stay and watch how they mended it and sewed it up and everything.
Growing up in Seal Beach, what were the things that you did for fun?
I would have kids over, and we danced down in the basement, And the guys that didn't know how to dance, us girls, we taught them how to do that with several girlfriends, and we had a good time. And there was a theater, and so we got to go to shows. We seemed to be busy. I don't ever recall a time that I just sat around with nothing to do. My mother always found something.
She had some interesting friends that would come and visit in the winter from a lot of different places.
Mrs. Zabel is the one that taught Doreen and I how to dance, tap dance, and she was an interest. Mother drove us into Compton probably once a week so we could take tap dancing lessons. And Mrs. Zabel was a very interesting lady. She could play the piano and direct, and you better listen because you got in trouble if you didn't. And we had about 7 girlfriends, Doreen and I, and whatever Mrs. Zabel taught us at dancing school, we came and we taught our neighbors to dance. All the little girls, there were 7 or 8 of us. And Mother sewed us all a costume, all 7 of us. And I do have one of the moving pictures showing us all dancing. So that was fun.
It's really cute.
I should give it to somebody in Doreen's family. I still have there was a little stick, was covered, painted, and it had a leather strap because we did a dance about riding horses or something, and I kept hers, so it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I remember Grandpa did a lot of traveling and stuff, different trips. When he came back, did he ever tell you any stories of his trips?
Mm-hmm. He did, and lots of pictures. He died at such an early age, actually, at 65, and so the stories he told mostly were done at church in the evenings, and it was, yeah, went to many countries, all through Europe and not South America, but
I think my favorite movie of him from his travels is when he's skiing in the Alps with his big old wooden skis, and he's got his business suit on. You know, it's just
yeah.
that's the way things were. You know.
Oh.
Yeah, and I liked the way he captured in the steamers. He didn't go on the luxury liners. He went on those tramp steamers. So that was always fun. He took pictures of the crew, and he wasn't like Grandma. We went on the Queen Mary. That one time we went up and saw her off in San Francisco.
Yeah.
But Grandpa was on those steamers. Very fun.
That's neat that she got to travel on the Queen Mary like that, and now it's just parked right there. You can see it from her old house.
Yeah.
Isn't that something?
Right. Yes, it is.
It is great. And then our dad, who had the trains, they did the train show on the Queen Mary, so that was really fun.
Right.
And Jim got to lead people around on the tours, and right there on that beautiful ship.
That's just the wind outside.
Right. Well, we had so much fun at that house.
Oh, we thought everybody's grandma lived on the beach.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just what we did. And remember when she would give Lenny, maybe back then, I don't know if it was $5 or something, and she'd drag all the grandkids down. And was it Lenny and Gary got the whole hamburgers, and then they started splitting them in half and giving them to the rest of us.
It's funny.
I know.
It's
Yeah. I remember she'd give me money, and she'd go run up to the Taco Bell and get tacos for everybody and run back home.
And then if Hazel was there, she'd cut it with a knife and fork. She ate her tacos with a knife and fork.
Oh,
And that was fun.
And her friend from New Zealand always wanted to hoover the house.
Yeah.
oh yes, that's the name of the, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
For Hoover.
Oh, the vacuum.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay.
That's what they called it.
Really
Now
fun.
they call it the shark.
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's a short, yeah.
And the Helms Bakery man.
Yeah.
Grandma
Oh,
Henkey
yeah.
kept him in business for sure.
You know, when they went out of business, he turned his. He bought his truck, and he became a dry cleaner. He went into the dry cleaning business,
I didn't know
and he came by our house in Santa Ana and he'd pick up our dry cleaning and bring it back, and he was our dry cleaner guy for a while.
that. For heaven's sake.
Isn't that
That is
something?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
I
No, that
know
was
it.
great. That.
But when the Helms Bakery came by, we'd get some pound cake and a donut.
Oh yeah,
Oh.
those chocolate brownies.
Oh, my.
and- oh my gosh. Between that and the Jewel gift man who came by and she ordered Christmas gifts off of that and
Mhm.
had her room just stacked with presents for all the kids and
Yeah.
stuff. Very, very neat. And then in Tent City, you talked about the ceiling or the walls.
Oh, you could, yeah. And the house, it was really a shack, but it was a house. And at Tent City, you could lay on the floor and people had autographed names on the ceiling. They'd put scenery up there, and how they did it was always a mystery. And I didn't take a picture of it. That's how I remember that. And I would like to say that Doreen had told, or George maybe had told me a story that every time they had, he was a year older than Doreen, but every time they had something going in the auditorium, she would wait till everybody was in and she would sort of sneak in so she could see. And could see him. And till one time she did get caught. And she didn't do it again, but that was her fun thing she remembered.
Well, I remember at 706 there was a garden area. Now, who was the gardener? Was it your mom or your dad?
My dad, he really enjoyed that. It was a good outlet for him. And we had a fish pond, and that was not swell when we had to clean it out because we had to use some kind of purple dye.
Mm.
You turn purple for a while. Yuck.
Now, I have a picture with you and Doreen in looked like formal gowns of some kind, standing in the garden area.
Yeah.
Do you remember what that was all about?
It was not really. It could have been my brother's wedding, but it could have been something going on at the high school too that we were both went to, Huntington Beach. Mother made a lot of our clothes. She was a very good seamstress.
Yeah, I remember she took the time to teach us all to knit.
You learned to knit too?
Yeah.
Do you have something to prove that?
I remember knit one, purl two. That's about all I
Oh,
remember.
well, that's very good.
But I think her ulterior motive was to keep us quiet and busy.
You think so? Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think so too. 13 of you can be a little noisy.
Mhm.
Tell us about Christmas at the Henkey house, even in the later years when all those
Oh.
people would come and.
Yes, Mother always had a tree that was probably 8 feet tall or something, and she would have people come and they would all leave a present or so, and that she really had stockings up, and Doreen and I always counted our presents. We had the same amount. Oh, it's funny. And of course, our grandmother lived with us too for a while, so she's part of our memories.
Mhm.
Grandma Robinson.
I remember a couple of stories, one of them having to do with it snowing.
It did snow in Seal Beach in 1947. Actually snowed on the sand. and I had a picture of it. It sort of got lost when I took it over to show it to Jim one time here, and anyway, it did.
It happened again for the second time this past year.
Did it really?
Yeah,
Oh.
and the last time that happened, they talked about it being back then.
Okay.
But it just happened this past year.
It's
Pictures were all
amazing.
over. Huntington Beach, I think, is where most of the pictures came from.
Okay. Very good.
Snow and sand look weird.
That's good. Yeah. Yeah. During the war, we had plywood that we would put up on the basement because we had large windows there, and plywood that we would put up on the windows on the first story. And they were actually horses that soldiers on horses. I found out later that patrolled the beach, and of course there were the soldiers at the end of the pier. I learned how to do the whatever you calling on the phone, a switchboard, and then of course both my brothers were in the war, and Wilford flew P-38, and he downed 3 or more maybe Japanese airplanes, and my other brother Leonard was in the Army, and he was stationed in the Philippines, and Mother was very conscious of having service people over as often as she could for lunch.